All right, buckle up, everyone. We're going on a beekeeping adventure today.
Sounds like fun.
You send in this podcast, Back in the Buzz,
Mm.
and, well, honestly, Jason's story
Oh, yeah.
really got to me. Like, starting over with 11 hives, that's serious dedication.
Yeah, it's not just, dabbling anymore. That's a commitment. And after, failing that first time, it really highlights how important it is
Oh, totally.
to really understand what you're getting into with bees.
Yeah, you think, oh, beekeeping, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
But Jason's experience shows there's a lot more to it.
Oh, absolutely. And, one thing that really stood out to me was his first hive was tucked away in the shade. And that seems to have caused a whole cascade of issues.
I think shade would be a good thing.
Right. You'd think they'd want to be out of the hot sun, but
Yeah, keep cool.
it caused dampness, pests, even mold.
Wow. So something as simple as sunlight
Yeah.
can make or break a hive.
Oh, absolutely essential for them. It's how they regulate the temperature, keep things dry.
Yeah.
And even it impacts how active they are. It's like their morning coffee.
Like their buzz starter.
Exactly. And, Jason, moving those 11 hives, he had to use a horse trailer.
That's what I was thinking about. Like, can you imagine 11 hives? That's got to be a sight.
Yeah, that's a lot of buzzing around.
Yeah, it makes you realize, got to have the right equipment for the job.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, as your apiary grows, you want to invest in the right tools.
Mm.
Sometimes you got to get creative.
Oh, for sure.
And beekeeping is all about adaptability.
One thing that really stood out to me, though, was how Jason found that support in the local beekeeping community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, who else can you talk to?
Yeah, who else is going to get it?
Hive inspections and all that.
And like you said, it's a whole learning process, and having those experienced beekeepers around you.
Oh, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
Especially when you're just starting out. All that advice.
Right.
And, they've probably seen it all.
Yeah, and speaking of things they've probably seen, let's talk about those pests and risks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Jason was very aware of that.
Yeah, he seems like he learned his lesson the first time.
Right.
With those varroa mites. They can devastate a colony.
They sound like tiny little vampires just sucking the life out of them.
They're these little parasites that latch onto the bees, weaken their immune system, can even spread diseases. So yeah, kind of like little vampires.
So what are the signs? How do you even know if you've got these mites?
You got to be really observant. Things like deformed wings, weakened bees crawling around outside the hive, and just a general decline in the population.
So really just keeping a close eye on
Yeah.
how everyone's doing.
Yeah. Early detection is key with these things.
Right. And that's where that community can really help out.
They can guide you on what to do. Whether it's treating with like a formic acid or maybe even doing a drone brood removal where they...
Oh, yeah. Targeting those baby drones.
Yeah, they love those.
Wow. It's amazing how much goes into managing a hive.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely meets the
A
X.
constant learning curve, like Jason said.
Yeah. It's like a little microcosm of life and society. But, he also talked about how beekeeping was therapeutic for him.
Oh, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people find that
Yeah.
connecting with nature,
Yeah.
slowing down, it's like
Yeah,
a form of therapy.
That makes you think, are there other things that we do that we could approach with that same mindfulness?
That's a really interesting question. Like, what could we all learn from beekeeping?
Like, what could we bring into our lives to find that same sense of peace?
Right.
So it's not just about honey, though that's obviously a perk.
That's a nice bonus.
It's about the journey, the connection with nature, the community. Exactly. Jason's story really highlights how beekeeping is so much more than just a hobby.
Yeah.
It's a way of life. But speaking of connection, let's dive a little deeper into the beehive itself.
All right, let's crack it open and see what's buzzing inside.
So first things first, we got to understand the roles within the hive. We've got the queen bee, of course, responsible for laying all those eggs. And then there's the worker bees.
Busy bees.
They do it all. Foraging for nectar and pollen, building the honeycomb.
Yeah.
Taking care of the little ones, the brood.
It's amazing how they all have their designated roles
Right.
and they just work together.
It really is like a well-oiled machine. And you know how they communicate?
How do they do it?
Pheromones, like chemical signals.
Wow.
And they even do these dances.
Like choreographed dances.
Yeah, to tell each other about food sources, danger, even where to find a new hive.
So much information packed into a little wiggle.
Right. Amazing, isn't it? It's like a whole city in there.
Yeah, they've got their systems.
Yeah, and it makes them super efficient. Let's say a group finds a new nectar source.
Oh, yeah.
They can tell everyone else right away, and the whole hive adjusts.
It's like a living superorganism.
Right.
Constantly adapting and optimizing.
Exactly. And it's interesting, you can see parallels between the beehive and our own societies.
Like what? Tell me more.
Well, think about it. Bees specialize in different tasks to benefit the whole hive.
Right.
Just like humans have different jobs and roles that keep society running.
Like we've got our teachers and doctors.
Our artists, engineers, farmers, everyone has their part.
And just like the bees communicate and cooperate.
Yeah, to achieve their goals.
We humans rely on that too, to build our communities.
Exactly. And, just like those pests that can threaten the hive, we've got our own challenges, right? Environmental problems, social issues.
Conflict, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if we can learn something from the bees about resilience, about working together.
Yeah. They've been doing this for millions of years.
That's right. And thriving. Clearly they know something.
Right. So when we're talking about Jason and his beekeeping, it's not just about the practical stuff. It's about gaining a deeper understanding of, how everything is connected.
Absolutely.
And how even the smallest creatures can teach us so much.
And, maybe by understanding how that beehive works, we can learn something about our own societies and build a better future.
Now, that's something to think about. All right, I need a honey break after all that.
Me too. But, Jason mentioned that for him, beekeeping wasn't just about the honey.
Oh, yeah.
He described it as therapeutic, really fulfilling.
I can see that.
Yeah.
There's something about working with the bees,
It's peaceful.
It's calming.
It is.
Like you have to slow down, be in the moment.
You have to pay attention
to
the details. Be patient.
Which is so different from how we usually live, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a complete...
Everything's so fast. Yeah. And gotta go.
It's like a counterbalance to that.
Yeah. It's a reminder that we are a part of something larger than ourselves.
It is.
And sometimes that reminder comes in the form of delicious honey.
A sweet reminder. So, we're talking about this therapeutic side of things.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, are there other things we do, everyday things, that we could approach with that same mindfulness and find a deeper meaning?
Like gardening, hiking, even just, taking a moment to look at the birds.
Exactly. It's about being curious, open to learning, appreciating the beauty around us.
That's it. That's the key.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, we've explored that beehive.
We sure have.
We have uncovered some parallels with our own societies.
Yeah.
We've even pondered some deeper meaning in everyday life.
It's amazing what you can learn from bees.
But our deep dive into Jason's beekeeping adventure isn't over yet. Next time, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of hive management.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about those pests in detail.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our beekeeping journey. We left off last time talking about those fascinating parallels between bee society and human society.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Those tiny creatures working together, they can teach us a lot about collaboration and resilience.
It's a good reminder that we can learn a lot from nature, even in our complicated human world. But now, I'm ready to get into the practical side of beekeeping.
All right, let's get down to business.
Especially those, those pesky pests we mentioned earlier. Jason was particularly vigilant about them after his first hive,
Oh, yeah, those varroa mites. They're a real threat to bee colonies all over the world.
They felt like a beekeeper's worst nightmare.
Oh.
What are the signs? How do you even know if your hive is infested?
You really got to be observant. Deformed wings are a big one.
Oh.
Or if you see bees crawling around outside the hive looking weak, that's not good. And obviously a big drop in the bee population, that's a clear sign.
So basically keeping a close eye on how everyone's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Early detection is key with these things.
And what can you do once you've spotted those mites?
There are a couple of different approaches. You can use organic acids, like formic acid or oxalic acid. They can be pretty effective. Some beekeepers use what's called a drone brood removal.
Drone brood removal? What's that?
It's pretty clever, actually. Varroa mites love those drone brood, the baby male bees.
Oh, interesting.
So you remove those frames from the hive, disrupt the mite's life cycle.
So it's like a targeted attack.
Right. You're taking away their favorite breeding ground.
I bet this is where that experience of seasoned beekeepers, like those in Jason's community,
oh, absolutely,
comes in handy.
They can tell you which treatment is best, the right timing, because every hive is different. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
It's just like Jason said, a constant learning curve.
Okay.
But beyond pests, what are some other things beekeepers have to be aware of?
Regular hive inspections are really important.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta check the colony's health, look for any signs of disease. Make sure the queen is laying eggs like she should.
It's all about creating the best environment for them.
Exactly. And you have to make sure they have enough space.
Oh, right.
As the colony grows, you might need to add more boxes to the hive.
Like a bee condo, expanding their living space.
Exactly, to accommodate everyone and all that honey they're storing.
Speaking of honey, let's shift gears to that sweet reward.
Yeah.
Jason talked about how much he loved harvesting the honey.
It's the culmination of all that hard work, The process itself is pretty fascinating. First, you extract those honey frames from the hive.
I bet those are heavy.
They can be, especially during a good honey flow. Then you use this special tool, an uncapping knife, to remove those wax cappings from the honeycomb cells.
I've always wondered what happens to that beautiful honeycomb after you've gotten the honey.
Some beekeepers give it back to the bees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they reuse it. Others melt it down to make candles or other products.
So resourceful.
Right. Nothing goes to waste. Then, after the honey's uncapped, it goes into a honey extractor.
That sounds fun.
It spins the honey out of the comb.
Oh, wow. So it's like a honey centrifuge.
Exactly. And then you strain it to remove any bits of wax.
And voila, you've got that liquid gold.
It's got to be so satisfying to taste that honey knowing you helped make it.
A true connection to nature's bounty. But speaking of connection, we talked about the role bees play in our ecosystem as pollinators.
Yeah, their contribution to biodiversity and food security is incredible.
It's easy to forget how much we rely on them.
1 in 3 bites of food, we owe that to pollinators.
It's mind-boggling.
And beekeeping, it plays a part in supporting bee populations.
So it's not just a hobby, it's actually helping the environment.
Exactly. And like Jason found, it gives you this deeper understanding of nature's balance.
It's like a reminder that our actions have a ripple effect.
Exactly. By caring for bees, we're caring for the planet and ourselves. Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to something we talked about, the therapeutic aspect of beekeeping.
Oh yeah, Jason described it as a kind of therapy, a way to connect with nature and find some peace.
A lot of beekeepers feel that way.
Yeah.
It's calming, grounding. You have to be patient, observant.
And slow down.
Yeah, move at nature's pace. So different from our busy lives.
It's like an antidote to all that hustle and bustle.
It is. Tending the hive, just being in the moment, it can be incredibly therapeutic.
It makes you think, maybe we could all use a little bit of bee time in our lives.
Right. Maybe that's what we can learn from Jason's story.
Yeah.
Even with our busy schedules, we can find ways to reconnect with nature, find those moments of peace.
And maybe those moments can inspire us to take better care of our planet.
To create a more harmonious future, a future where bees continue to thrive and we learn from their wisdom. But our deep dive isn't over yet. There's one more crucial element of Jason's beekeeping journey we need to explore. Sunlight.
That's right. We touched on it earlier, but I'm ready to delve into why sunlight is so important for those bees.
Let's shine a light on that essential element.
And we're back for the final part of our beekeeping exploration with Jason.
It's been quite a journey. We've talked about hive life, pest control, even the zen-like aspects of beekeeping.
It's amazing how much there is to learn about these buzzing little creatures.
It really is. But of course, no beekeeping journey is complete without talking about the honey.
Ah, yes, the golden reward.
Exactly. And as Jason pointed out, it's not just about the sweetness. Harvesting that honey, it represents all the work the bees have done.
Yeah, and all the care that the beekeeper puts in.
It's like a tangible result of that partnership between humans and nature.
I bet it feels incredible to finally get that first jar of honey from your own hive.
It must be such a sense of accomplishment. And, honey has been such an important part of human history.
Yeah, for food, for medicine, even for rituals and ceremonies.
It's amazing to think about how something so simple has played such a big role for so long.
It shows you how deep that connection between humans and bees really is. And speaking of connections, let's bring it back to the bees' role as pollinators.
They're essential, absolutely vital for our ecosystem.
We've said it before, but it bears repeating. 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat, we can thank the bees for that.
It's incredible when you think about it. So many of our fruits, vegetables, nuts, they all rely on pollinators.
Makes you realize how important it is to protect them and their habitats.
Absolutely. And Jason talked about how beekeeping made him more aware of environmental issues.
Right. He felt a sense of responsibility.
It's common among beekeepers. You get this firsthand look at how interconnected everything is.
You see the delicate balance.
And how our actions, even something like keeping bees, can have a positive impact on the environment.
It's a reminder that we're all part of this bigger ecosystem. And when we take care of one part, it benefits the whole. Before we wrap up, I want to touch on something that really struck me throughout Jason's story. That idea of beekeeping being therapeutic.
Yeah, he talked about how it helped him connect with nature, find a sense of peace.
It's something a lot of beekeepers mention.
That calmness, that rhythm of working with the bees, it can be very grounding.
You have to be patient, observe, slow down.
Move at nature's pace. So different from our usual go-go-go lives.
It's like a reset button for your mind.
Exactly. Tending to those hives, just being present in the moment. It's almost like a meditation.
It makes me think we could all use a little bit of bee time in our lives.
Doesn't it? What if we approached other parts of our lives with that same mindfulness?
What if we brought that same intention to our everyday activities?
Like maybe gardening or going for a walk in nature, really paying attention to the world around us.
Finding those moments of stillness and connection? Well, that brings us to the end of our beekeeping deep dive.
It's been a fascinating journey, learning about Jason and his bees.
I feel inspired, honestly. It's a reminder that even in our busy lives, we can find ways to connect with nature.
To learn from its wisdom.
And maybe even discover a sense of peace and purpose along the way.
It's about being curious, finding community, and realizing how deeply connected we are to the natural world.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this thought. What seemingly ordinary activity in your life could hold more meaning than you realize? What might you discover if you approach it with the same curiosity and passion as a beekeeper tending to their hive? Keep exploring, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, consider giving beekeeping a try. You never know what sweetness you might find.